Okay, ladies, this is a medium, and it is dragging on the floor for me way beyond what I would like. So this is how much I would like to bring up to here. Okay, just so you know, it's right below that Lowe's line. It's easiest to do these with the patterns that are straight across. Scissors. Okay, so I'm going to cut 1.5 inches right there below. Just like this. Are you scared? Are you scared? I'm not. 1.5 inches. The seam is always the first part. Okay? So it's the hardest part. Now this is easiest done on a flat surface. So I'm going to finish cutting this on a flat surface. All right, ladies, I've done it. I've cut off that section. Now I'm going to create how much skirt I do want. So here's the top half. Okay, it's still right side out so I can tell where it's going to go. So then I showed that I wanted it right about here. So I'm going to double check and make sure that that's the right length. Right on. So now I'm going to chop off this portion. Now, like I said, this is easiest done with the designs that are more regular, striped almost. Okay. So again, I'm going to use a flat surface. So I can get a straight-ish cut. I'm going right beneath the roses line here. I need a higher flat surface, like I did before. All right. Here's my selvage piece, my leftovers, which I'm going to figure out something creative to do with later. And here is the skirt portion. Okay? Skirt portion. Right? Super cute. Okay. So now I'm going to turn this piece. Finally take it off the hanger, right? I never did take my sisters off the hanger, but that's beside the point. Take this piece, my top half, and I'm going to take this piece and I'm going to turn it inside out. Okay. Then I'm going to match up the seams after I've slipped the top inside the skirt. Okay. So these seams here are going to match up. See those seams? They're going to match up. So the right sides should be together, which they're not, so I screwed up. That's okay. One piece is right side out, the top. and then it goes inside. Because it's like you would folded it in half. So you want the right sides touching each other when you make a seam. So, see? There. There we go. Okay, so all I'm going to do now is I'm going to go pin this right here like this. I'm going to put a pin there, and then I'm going to find the halfway point, which is here to here, right? And I'm going to put a pin here, and then I'm going to pleat gently throughout. And then I'm going to sew with a 1/4 inch seam allowance away from the elastic portion of the dress, and then I'm going to trim away the excess. That's it. Super easy. I will give you more video tips then. I have pleated as I've gathered. See that? So I've taken the halfway mark and then met it in the middle so that it's created small pleats around. And I've matched it up here, put my foot down, and it is just beyond the seam allowance away from the waistband right there. So it is just a little bit over a 1/4 inch away with my overlap here. So now I'm going to use the overcast stitch here. Okay, so it's number 12. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do. And then as I go, I pull the pins out. That's really all it is. And I try to stay that consistent distance away from the waistband so that I can fold it over. So I'm just going to start sewing. I don't think I can hold the camera while I sew. I just don't think I've got that in me, and I'm pretty sure this is going to bounce too much, but we'll see. Do need to go slow when sewing anything that is mesh or delicate. So it's basically looks like a mountain, and then it overlocks it back at the edge. Go a little faster. And I do start at the seam, and then I slow it down as I come closer to the next pin spot. Whenever I stop, I make sure I put the needle down. See, here's another pin. I did screw up on my sister's and leave a pin in, and that was not pleasant when I tried it on, but I did get it out before I gave it to her, so winner, winner. I'm not the worst sister. I'm giving her something with pins still in it, right? So that is how you get started. So I'm going to finish that. See here, I'm using the presser foot combined with the elastic waistband running right underneath here to make sure that we are getting an even hem, making it easier to fold over as we go. Super simple there. And if your mesh starts to go underneath, just stop and then pull it out gently and then move it forward a slight bit and keep going. But if you go slow, it'll help avoid that. There, and I've matched the seams up on both pieces. So we just want to make sure that those stay right on top of each other and that they don't move. So I've just wiggled it back to where it belongs as I've unpinned it. And then we're just going to continue to sew in the same fashion, making sure that the seam is not a spot where there's any room for misalignment. So hopefully the camera doesn't drop as we go through this portion. We'll speed it up just a little. Still using the elastic as a guide. The seam is the thickest portion. I'm going to stop as I'm coming up to another pin here. I don't want to break my needle hitting a pin. I'm going to keep going along right there. I'm very familiar with my machine. If you're not super sewer, you don't sew a ton, The slower the better. I know exactly which areas are more likely to get caught in my machine than others. And I also want to make sure as I go that I'm pulling the inside layer here back free. See that? So needle down, up, and just kind of free that excess selvage so you can make sure that you're joining up all your bits. Foot down. You don't want to make your needle do more work than it has to. Now the overcast stitch is an easier finishing stitch, which is why I chose it, but there's definitely other options. The surging stitch is a great finishing stitch as well. And again, I'm just using that waistline as a guide so that we can have a straight fold over portion. See, you can see it through here just a little bit better than earlier. So that's just guiding along the side of my foot. There you go, ladies. Now they are joined. So what I'm going to do now is trim off the excess selvage. So, let's see, how do I do that? So you can see me. All right, let's do that. So, I've checked for pins. I'll probably find another one in a minute here. I try to take them out as I go. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take my scissors, just very gently cut off the excess from my initial trim, and I am just trimming right up to the other line of the seamage. Man, my scissors need sharpening. My kids have probably been using them. So you see, as I'm trimming it, I'm not trimming it super close to this, just close enough, you know, just close enough. So I'm going to continue to do that. I know this doesn't look super professional, but I promise you it turns out gorgeously. Though I should get some new scissors out here. So there we're at the halfway mark. There's a seam. Seams are always harder to cut through. And I'm just trying to make it so my fold over is as small as possible so that you will have it completely blended into the waistline where that elastic is. Because that's the next step. Almost there. Almost there. See, look at that. So now we have a much smaller fold over to work with. Come on. Those seams, man. And I need new scissors. Well, I need to sharpen these. Waste not, want not. Okay. So now my selvage edge is much, much smaller, right? I've got a little tiny bit of selvage there. So you just want to make it nice and somewhat flat. Okay. Now, I'm going to come back over here. Okay. So, with the selvage edge, I want to turn the dress completely inside out. Now, see? Completely inside out, okay? Then you're going to want to take your selvage. Oops, let's see. So now we've turned the dress inside out. We've trimmed off that selvage edge. Now we're taking our new seam, and there's our waistband. Here's our new seam. And we're going to take that new seam, just like so, and just fold it onto the waistband. It should not be thicker than the waistband. Now, all I have to do is basically tack it down. So I'm going to slip the dress, okay, while it's inside out. I'm going to slip the dress under the foot so that I'm sewing in like a tubular motion. So it's remaining inside out. Now, if you're really unsure, you could pin it, but I have done this particular thing before. So then I press down my foot, and I like to start at a seam. So make sure you've started at a seam. Here's one. Okay. So start at a seam. I like to make sure my bobbin is full when I do this because I hate starting and stopping. By the way, the seam is the toughest, the thickest part to start at, okay? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do what they call a stretch stitch, which is, well, on mine it's number 5. So I'm on number 5, okay? And then I just, again, go slow. This is still a lace and netting. I stretch out my elastic to the max. See, that's why I'm pulling. The foot is down, the needle's down, okay? Stretch your elastic to the max. Fold your hem straight on top. You want the needle to be going through the center of your previous overcast stitches, the ones that look like mountains. You want to be going into the center of those so that you're not doing it into anywhere that can unravel, okay? So we're just going to go nice and slow. And I have to help it along a little bit at first because it is a seam on top of a seam. But then I can just pull, and I like to pull on the elastic because then I know that I'm getting my full stretch. And then now that we're past that seam, I can speed it up a little bit. So I'm pulling against on the front so that it is able to utilize its stretch. All right, so I've sewed about a quarter of the front there, and I'm just matching up my seam a little bit further here. I'll bring you a little bit closer so you can see. There's your, okay, so you see how it's just matched up and it's just a tiny bit of ruffle, but we can trim that with finer, better scissors. So I've just stretch it and then let it sew.